Good evening, cult members. Welcome to the Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And this is our Doctor Who review of The Demons in Punjab. This is, I'm actually going to say this to start off before we get really going. I really liked this episode.
I did too.
This one definitely made up for the last one.
Yeah. And I'm trying to, through the whole thing, I kept thinking, I really like this one, and why? Why do I like this one better than the last one?
Right.
I don't know.
I think more, one of the things that I said during this episode was, it's a good episode when I'm entrenched enough that I forget to take notes.
Yeah.
And then at the commercial break, I'm sitting there trying to write down notes and stuff like that. And then about 2/3 of the way through the episode, she's on her phone and looking up what this episode was kind of centered around.
Yeah.
And it was centered around the partition of Pakistan and from India in 1947 and the conflict that was about to start. It hadn't really started yet, but the conflict is before it was about to start, and the lines that were being drawn at that point in time.
And I this is a story I didn't know. I'm a product of American school system.
Yeah,
I never knew
that's not even a conversation that we would have in the school system.
I had no idea that Pakistan split from India.
Yeah,
no idea.
Which is, for us being more historically aware people.
Yeah,
that's a part of that's a hole in our knowledge, and this is why Doctor Who kind of exists. It originally was a science-based show to teach kids about science and stuff, but it turned into a sci-fi show to teach people about history.
Right.
That's what it turned into being.
Yeah. I mean, you still sometimes learn some science too.
Yeah, the last 2 weeks they've kind of had some science stuff.
Yeah, like apparently chicken poo and yak spit and
a biscuit
will make a concoction that tells you what's in the tube.
the cylinder. The underlying story, the story itself is about Yaz's aunt.
Grandma.
She did call her Nana.
Yeah.
I thought it was Anna.
No,
it was Nana.
Yes.
Let me start this again. It's about Yaz's grandmother.
Yes.
And she was asking her about her history, and they were celebrating her birthday, and her Nana gave her this watch that's broke.
Right.
And Yaz gave the watch to the doctor and said, she doesn't talk about her past. Can we find out what's going on? And the doctor reluctantly, I won't say reluctantly is not the right word, but was...
No, she was reluctant.
She was reluctant, but she agreed to take Yaz into her own time stream, which is not directly attached to her time stream, but they could have messed it up enough where Yaz doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been a big no-no in the past.
Yeah. And I really appreciated that, Yaz was tempted a couple of times, but she didn't do the cliche, I'm not going to listen to you and run off and mess everything up.
Right.
She understood what the doctor was telling her, and that, as difficult as it was not to interfere, she didn't.
Yeah. The story itself was about Yaz's grandmother's wedding day, and how she lost her husband on the wedding day, and they tell the story of the watch. But the big story was about the separation of Pakistan from India and the lines that were drawn in the sand because you were Muslim and you were Hindu and you were Sikh, and we can't talk to each other anymore. We can't do stuff with each other anymore, and how that directly affected everyone within the region, especially those along the border, which is kind of a metaphor of what's going on, at least story-wise, in the modern world. Yeah, there's a big separation, the big lines being drawn with we're American and you're British and you're Iraqi and we can't talk to each other
Right.
because we hate each other.
Or you're Republican and I'm Democrat.
Right,
and-
right. Which is the American version, but they're
Right.
having the same exact conversation in the UK right now.
Yeah, yeah.
With the different parties and stuff and religions and stuff.
And leaving the EU and
Yeah, yeah.
and all that. Yeah. So I mean, it's happening everywhere, and it makes you kind of wonder what that area, what that part of the world would be like today if all that hadn't happened.
Or there had been cooler heads to, make sense of make it more acceptable in that time period and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We had aliens. You can't have a sci-fi show without having sci-fi stuff going on. We had aliens. They were called the Centurion. She says it with an accent a couple times, whatever. But having them not really be the bad guys, and being the shepherders of those who die alone, was a really nice touch.
Yeah.
It was very easy to understand the Doctor's point of view when you have these demons who were,
had a history. They had
of being assassins and stuff like that. But now they turn into shepherds of the dead and those who died alone. And it was nice to have the aliens not be the bad guys.
Yeah.
Because we've talked about this in multiple times in other episodes where Capaldi's doctor made a joke. You had a horror film called Aliens. No wonder everybody keeps trying to conquer you, and so there was that kind of a conversation of having them actually be the good guys.
Yeah.
But yet the demons themselves was actually those who were trying to oppress those who wish to keep the status quo and have everybody be Muslims and Hindu and Sikh to be together. But the demons themselves were actually the people who were trying to separate everybody.
Yeah. Well,
And so
yeah. They were us, not them.
Yeah.
They were the humans, not the things from other worlds. I also like, this isn't the first time she's done this. She put her hands like this.
Yeah,
like they did.
she had her hands up. Yeah,
That's not the first time she's done that. She's done that in other episodes. I'm trying to remember.
Where she takes on the mannerisms.
Yeah, she does whatever it is that they're doing to be respectful or whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I ever. Maybe David Tennant.
Would do it. He did it with the ood and stuff like that. But he wasn't as direct with what he was doing.
Yeah,
I
think it's cool.
Yeah. A couple things, at least with the, I'm really liking Jodie. I really want that coat. I've started the conversation of doing that cosplay, the male version of the cosplay. The points were brought up again.
Yeah.
I
have to remember the points.
I have to remember if she says House Gryffindor or House Yaz or House Ryan or something at the end of the season that would be a perfect kind of like capper on that kind of continuing kind of joke and everything.
Joke,
her facial mannerisms are what's killing it for me right now with her.
Yeah, she's always doing that.
But her empathy and understanding that no matter what the timeline is set for this would have been really easy for something like Tennant, who went in and said, I make my own rules.
Yeah.
And this was been really easy for her to say, I make up my own rules, and then kind of gotten smacked on the wrist a little bit about it. But she didn't do that. She didn't lean into that story. And
well, I think that's the point, that each generation has their thing, and they hopefully learn from it, right?
Yeah.
Which is a metaphor for humankind.
Right.
But yeah, David Tennant was, he was very angry.
He was very angry.
And yeah, I'm just going to do what I want. And he, kind of paid the price.
Yeah.
He regenerated alone, right? And then Matt Smith was like, I'm just not going to even think about any of that. I'm just over here kind of having fun, and I'm not going to think about what happened on Gallifrey and stuff. And then Capaldi was kind of like, okay, this is what happens when you push all that aside. Now you
Yeah.
have to live with, he
The
was,
consequences.
yeah,
and,
he was almost a little crazy.
Yeah. He was definitely. He wasn't the man.
Depressed.
He was depressed. I was gonna say the man with a box, but that wasn't him. He was definitely depressed and dealt with a lot of different things
Yeah.
that he probably shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
She also made a reference to making a joke about being a man, and I've never had to do this before. When they were doing all the girls were together and doing the Hannah together and stuff.
Yeah.
And I like that they keep kind of making that joke or making that reference that she is a woman and she hasn't been in the past, and so she's stumbling her way through the girl parts at times.
Yeah.
And so I'm really appreciating that part of it too. So, but overall, I think I really like this episode. One other thing that we're going to talk about just for a second is this episode came out here in the States on 11/11, which is Veterans Day for us.
Right.
And
it's Remembrance Day.
And Remembrance Day in the UK. And it's also the 100th anniversary of the armistice of World War One.
Yep.
Which also happened today. They're not saying that they had a field of poppies on purpose.
But there was a field of poppies.
But there was a field of poppies, and poppies are the kind of the universal symbol of support of the veterans and the war veterans from World War One and World War Two.
Yep.
Actually, I saw a thing. The Queen was at a remembrance event today in the pouring rain, and she had 4 poppies on her lapel of her coat.
Yep.
And she's 92 and actually stood out in the rain
Yeah.
for the service.
Yeah.
And she had her poppies. And they didn't necessarily they didn't say they did it on purpose, but it was
pretty convenient.
It was pretty convenient that they did a scene where they ran through a field of poppies on Remembrance Day.
Do you know that this has nothing to do with Doctor Who, that there's actually a way to wear the poppies, and you're supposed to wear them at, I'm probably doing this backwards, at 11 o'clock on your, so as another 11 for Remembrance Day.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. So that was not, I'm going to say unintentional, awesome part,
Right.
but I'm going to go with it. And so that was kind of a nice little thing. Anything else for this episode that you want to talk
holiday.
about? So the holiday, and that was one of the things. There's a Hindu holiday called Diwali that starts on November 7th and lasts for 5 days. And it's essentially their Hanukkah, Christmas, New Year,
4th of July, everything
thing.
packed into one.
And there was a Hindu Muslim wedding within this episode, and they dealt with some, not all, but they dealt with some of the Hindu traditions that came up with that. And this episode came out on the 11th, so we're in the middle of the event.
Well, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
So today's the last day.
Today's the last day.
And it starts on the 7th of November every year. And so to cap off the celebration this year, we also have the Hindu the Hindu-based episode of Doctor Who, which we've never really had in the past, at least with the modern ones.
Yeah.
This is a subject matter that really hasn't been brought up in the modern Doctors, and I'm 99% sure it was never brought up with the original Doctor Who.
Yeah, well, having recently come back from the UK, the Indian Muslim Hindu, that population is very prevalent in the UK today. That's actually a point of contention with some people in the UK because they feel like they're all these people from other countries are coming over and diluting their their country or whatever. But I think that it's very important that they kind of include a large majority of their population.
Yeah. And this is another example of you haven't had to watch previous Doctor Who to get into this series, and there's no overall story arc. They are embracing all different types of watchers and
Yeah.
followers and try to get new people in.
Especially in their country.
And especially
right
in
now.
their country, right?
Yeah.
They did do the American episode for the Americans.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the next one looks like we're gonna get robots. So always robots are always good.
As long as they're not emoji robots.
No, we don't talk about that episode. So that's our thoughts on this episode of Doctor Who called The Demons in Punjab. What did you guys think of this episode? Please let us know, like this video, leave us a comment of your thoughts, subscribe to the channel, and also get a hold of us on our social media network. We're Pop Culture Cult on Facebook, Pop Culture Cult 1 on Instagram, and at Pop_Cult 1 on Twitter. Follow us everywhere as much as you can, including Podomatic. More on that coming soon. Until next time, good night now.